If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Hello, kitties. This is your Julie, the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Slasher Radio.
Welcome to Slasher Radio. The host Mikey Bones, and no Rob Humphrey or Cass Lovecraft. Guys, I know you're expecting a Murder Madness episode this week, but due to scheduling and things like that, you can blame Little Miss Canada.
I'm Canadian. Sorry. Miss Scusi.
But we're kind of off this week. We're kind of not. We didn't want to leave you guys with nothing. So even though we don't have a Murder Madness episode this week, it will be back next week with a regular episode, and we will continue the bracket. But we wanted to have something for you guys, and I think we came up with something pretty special. I sat down with Larry Zerner. Last Friday the 13th, if you guys remember, Sean Cunningham spoke with TMZ. There was a lot of confusion about what he had to say about the status of the new Friday the 13th movie. So who better to ask than Larry Zerner? Everybody who listens to the show should know Larry. Everybody who's a Friday the 13th fan or even a horror fan in general should know Larry. He's an icon in the genre. Played Shelley in Friday the 13th Part 3. Also voiced Shelley in Friday the 13th The Game. Went on to become a copyright attorney, specializing in things exactly like the situation that was going on with the Friday the 13th lawsuit. So throughout the entire almost 2-decade-long trial, Larry's been the go-to source for what exactly is going on, what does all the legal shit mean, and now he's going to break down what Sean Cunningham said, the issues with the Ghostface mask that came up recently, and a bunch of other stuff. Also, Vincente DeSante, friend of the show, his Never Hike Alone final cut is coming out next year. Larry was in Never Hike Alone 2. So he's going to talk a little bit about that. And even Crystal Lake. We get into a lot of Crystal Lake talk, Friday the 13th, the game talk, even touch on a little bit of Dead by Daylight with the whole Jason situation. And even maybe Shelley coming back in the new Crystal Lake series. Yeah, never know. We get into all of it. I hope you enjoy this little special episode that we threw together for you guys. Let us know what you think. Hope you enjoy.
Oh wait, I got a dog that wants to come in the room.
Oh, nice.
All right, come on, Layla. All right.
I am a known dog person, so I haven't even seen your dog, and I love him.
She's a good one. She's a good girl. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Every time something happens in the Friday the 13th world, everyone's looking for Larry Zerner to tell them what it means. And things have kind of been on the up for a little bit. Things are looking positive. Jason Universe and all that stuff. July of last year, Jason Universe was at San Diego Comic-Con, and Robbie Barsimian confirmed a new movie's coming, a new game's coming. They're working on it. And 8 months later, we find out there's just a treatment. There's not really any movement. Sean Cunningham recently told TMZ that there's a treatment ready for an old school Jason flick, and they're waiting for the Warner Brothers Paramount merger. What does all this tell you?
Well, I think there's going to be a movie, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. I mean, it won't be before the TV show, which will premiere in the fall, but you know, I I think that they are working hard to get going on a movie.
Right. Right. And see the thing that, and again, when I speak on what's going on, this is like public, we're assuming, right? Which is
Mhm.
why we ask you. General understanding seems to be when Jason Universe came around, it's all figured out, everything is done. Sean Cunningham, Victor Miller sat behind it by a campfire and everything's fine. But what does Paramount and Warner Brothers, what is that merger? How does that affect this movie if everything was figured out with the creation of Jason Universe?
Okay, well, this is my understanding that okay, so all the rights to all the rights to the characters, um, to Jason, and the ability to do new things belong to Jason Universe, which is a new company that is partially, owned, it's the Barsamians and Victor Miller. Right, they set that up because now, they came together. Victor owned some of the IP, the first movie IP, and Horror Inc. owned all the other rest of it. Um, but the name Friday the 13th is owned by Warner Brothers.
Right.
The first 8 movies are owned by Paramount.
Right.
Um, they can now, but they can make at least the first one. They can redo it when that's the series, and that's on Peacock, which is Universal. So there's nothing stopping them from doing Friday 13th, but they can't call it Friday 13th because
Right.
the trademark is owned by, well, technically New Line, which is a division of Warner Brothers.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and that's why you see the old merch, like New Line still sells Friday the 13th merch, but Jason Universe has started selling its own merch. And you've seen like the Savini game doll and doll stuff from the game, which was completely owned by Horror Inc.
Hmm.
So um, so they both side, but nothing stopping New Line from selling hacky masks or fake axes or costumes with the New Line logo on it.
Okay. So from what I'm gathering, they really want to name this movie Friday the 13th, it seems like. And it's just from a public eye, it's what's stopping them from putting the new Jason look that, Greg Nicotero had a hand in designing and all that
Mhm.
into a new movie. Other than the title, because that I understand Paramount owns, like you said, or I'm sorry, no, New Line. What does Warner Brothers and Paramount have that they need for a new movie, or is this just seem like okay, they want to do it a certain way?
Uh, I don't. Well, they do own the title. I don't know if the contract. At some point, usually when you have these contracts, like distribution contracts, there is that they all have the right to release new movies from the first right to make an offer on a new movie. Now, usually that right, I haven't seen that contract, so I don't I'm purely speculating here.
Right,
Because most times in a contract there'll be a limit. So, if for the next 5 years or so, if they had made a movie after the last movie was the remake in 2009, so if they'd made a movie after that for a period of time, Warner Brothers would have the first shot at distributing it. Um, it is certainly possible that uh, it went longer, that they have the right forever. I don't know.
right.
I would say probably not. They didn't want the series. I mean, obviously they could have done the series on HBO, um, and they didn't want to do that. I mean, maybe. I mean, I can see this show doesn't really feel like an HBO show, but
Yeah,
uh, but Peacock was like, we'll take it. I mean, um, but it's also, it's A24, and I think A24 has a deal with you. Well, I don't know if they have a deal with Universal, but I think they may have a first look, a deal with Universal, which is why. The show was at Peacock, and they just called it Crystal Lake, sort of to, separate it from the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Then that makes it seems a lot easier. Just yeah, absolutely. Also, another question I had about Sean Cunningham's statement when he says waiting for the Warner Brothers Paramount merger, given the amount of time between San Diego Comic-Con, 8 months, and we haven't really seen, everyone's assuming, oh man, they got the cameras in the woods already and they're ready to go. Do you see a world where Jason Universe might wait until this Warner Brothers Paramount merger is over to start production? Because you did say you think
No,
sooner than later, but Sean Cunningham doesn't seem too promising.
I don't see that they're going to wait for the merger. I mean, the merger may never go through.
Right, right.
Uh, there's a lot of things that are going to happen before this merger, and no, I don't think they're going to wait.
Okay.
I don't know why they would have to.
Yeah, and that's why I was so confused because, I understand there's stuff owned in between both the companies, but those mergers could take 1-2 years. And like you said, anything can go wrong and they could say, never mind, and it'll never happen.
Right, right. I don't think that's gonna. I don't know. I don't know that Sean was correct in that statement, but maybe he knows more than I do. I don't know.
How much who is involved with what and everything, and how much Sean Cunningham's involved. He could have his hands in it very deeply, or he could, like he said in the article, he's a cheerleader. Who knows the depth of his involvement and all those things. So we're left to speculate. But you had talked about Crystal Lake, and one of the questions which you kind of answered, what was the differences and why is it green light for Crystal Lake, finished filming already, all those things. You mentioned the original story, but now I guess my question shifts to how far can Crystal Lake go now? Because as you mentioned earlier, they're allowed to tell the original story, which is what, Crystal Lake was always supposed to be. But now it being a series, if it gets picked up for more seasons, how far can Crystal Lake go with their story as far as involving Jason? Or is this really going to be solely a Pamela and young Jason story? And there's a time frame on how far it can go.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. I got an error report on my Zoom. I can't. The camera's not working anymore. But
that's fine.
the uh, they can do anything. That's my understanding. They can do anything. Do any. I don't know that other than if they're going to do if the next seasons will use other characters from other movies. Other than Ginny. I don't know that they're going to be tied to bringing in the other victims, or they'll make their own victims. So I don't know that they're going to have a Shelley, in season, at some point with the hockey mask, or they'll just make their own.
Right, right.
I just don't know what their plan is with response to just like how much they want to be like, we're just going to do these again. I mean, you can't really take a 90-minute movie and make it a series. You got to do a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, and there's definitely a lot more on the plate for the Jason Friday the 13th story that we never got to see, and it's definitely going to be interesting diving into that. But legally, it's interesting that you said that they can go as far as they want. So what's the difference here with them, or because it's so confusing because Crystal Lake, they can do whatever they want, and it seems like that changed too when Crystal Lake was first announced. They were saying, okay, it's going to be a Pamela story, it's a prequel series, and then Jason Universe came around and a lot of stuff stopped, showrunners changed, and it was almost like they said, wait a minute, we could do a lot more now. And it seemed like a lot of things shifted within the whole Crystal Lake landscape. You say they can go as far as they want. So what's the difference, or is there any difference between Jason Universe saying, okay, let's make this Crystal Lake series and let's make a movie?
No, they could have gone right back. They could have made Crystal Lake a movie instead. I think there was just a play to make, I mean, part of it was bad luck that this was all supposed to happen a few years ago. And
Right.
First they lost time from COVID, and then they lost time from the strike, and then they lost time because they fired Brian Fuller.
Right.
So it was just one thing after another. And so this could have been done, 3 years ago. But could have been, and if it had, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. We'd have been done with the season already, season one already.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Please.
No, we'd be on at least season 2 season 2 would have been done already.
Wow. Yeah, time does not stop for anybody. That is wild because we've been waiting on Crystal Lake for so long, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes. You know, even for me as a fan, where we waited almost 2 decades now, and 8 months later we get this, and we're like, only a treatment. You know, like we just want it so badly. Like you said too, Shelley could come back in the Crystal Lake series. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, we have to wait and see what they want to do. But what do you personally think, being such an infamous character in the franchise? How would you feel about a new Shelley coming into that series?
Well, I think it'd be hard to find someone as good looking as I was back then
I agree. Yeah.
to take over. They got like a young Brad Pitt. Is basically what we're talking about. So if they can do it, good luck to them. Let's see if they can find that person.
Maybe get some like de-aging on Brad Pitt and just throw him in there. That might work. Who knows?
That's how I want it done. That's how I want it done.
That would be a headline. That is for sure.
As opposed to the young Jonah Hill or Seth Rogen.
It would be cool to see, because we just had 2 Friday the 13th in the last 2 months, which was great. Yeah. So I did a lot of rewatching of the series. And you sit and think about Crystal Lake and you're like, man, what would it look like now? And how could they expand on that story in the series? It would be very interesting to see these characters and really get to dive into them.
Look, I love Linda Cardellini. I think she's great. Watching her now on DTF, which is great. And she's a great actress. And so I think she'll do a great job.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. We talked about the movie. What about the Friday the 13th game? And I'm sure the legal landscape is, I don't know. That's why we're asking you, but is the legal landscape the same or for the new game that they want to work on?
They can do a game. They didn't so the game was, the studios never acquired game rights. So there Horror Inc. always had the right to make a game. There wasn't, they did the Nintendo game, they did the crappy games. So they can do a game. They can do, they don't need anyone. They don't need if they want to call it Friday 13th the game,
right?
They need even then, let's see. No, they called it Friday 13th the game. I'm not even sure about that because New Line's trademark is not for games. So not even sure that they need. They did call it Friday 13th the game. I don't know if that was an injection. I have to go back and look at the game whether there was a New Line license or not, or who has the. While we're talking, I will look at the trademark office and see if there's a trademark for the game.
Okay. I did have a question lined up for that too. When we get into the figures, I'm sure you see the avenue I'm going down for that. But yeah, and so you're saying that they all along, well, I guess not all along, but since Jason Universe and Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller came to their agreement, they were ready to go with a game, no problem?
I think there's going to be a game. Games take a long time. And it just takes a long time. Maybe they'll announce something at this year's Comic-Con, Yeah. I would hope that at this year's Comic-Con, there'll be a panel. I imagine there'll be a panel. They will introduce the game, not the game, but the show, and they'll be there and talking about what's new. So, we're just, it's March, so we're 4 months away. I'm sure there'll be a lot of announcements.
Yeah, hopefully so. The last gaming question that I have for you, even though we'll kind of touch on it in a minute, there's been a lot of talk about Jason going to Dead by Daylight. That community wants him badly. They want him badly over at Behavior. We have friends over there, so we hear a lot of the rumbling of how badly he's wanted in the game. And every time we talk to Behavior or anyone drops an interview or anything and Jason comes up, the rights are always mentioned as a problem. Is it just more so the entanglement of it all? How do you see that landscape of him joining into Dead by Daylight?
Yeah, they can do it. I mean, they can put Jason in anything if they want to. I don't see there's any problem.
So it's probably just negotiations on that level then is what you would assume.
Wasn't Jason in
Multiverses? Fortnite too, yeah.
Yeah, so it may be that sometimes one company will get exclusivity for a period of time.
That's very interesting. And from the landscape of it all too, it could look like, hey, we're making a game too, exclusivity, all those things. There's so many things that tie into it, but I know the Dead by Daylight fans are definitely, I would be crucified if I didn't ask you about that. But yeah, it seems like just a very negotiative level, maybe. Who knows with that too.
Yes, I could see it happening. I'm certainly, I think something both sides probably want. So, I could see it happening.
Right. And I noticed, getting back to the Friday the 13th, the game title, Jason Universe has been releasing a lot of figures through NECA and all kinds of things, but a lot of them have Friday the 13th, the game titled on it. It's interesting because you mentioned that's owned by Horror Inc., but everybody knows that Gunn created and Elphonic, the Friday the 13th game.
Well, yeah, but under license from Horror Inc.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask you. So now, what is the purpose of Jason Universe putting these figures out under Friday the 13th, the game? Is it to move away from other agreements? And is Gunn involved at all at any level with the release of these things?
I don't know if that there's any involvement. I think that, they were paid to do whatever they were doing. But I don't think that, I don't know if they get some money from that. I just don't know how that deal was. Let's see. I'm looking at so I'm looking at the Friday 13th game website, and it does say that was done under there is a trademark notice from New Line on that. So so New Line does control the name for that.
Interesting.
It says New Line, and so it says it says Friday the 13th and all related characters and elements are trademarks of and copyright New Line Productions Inc. and Horror Inc., each to the extent of their interest. So it's like, all right, well, we're not going to tell you what the interest is, but
right.
We both have an interest. So, but I think the interest is that New Line's interest is in the game. I don't, to the extent they're copying. Well, they don't own the character names. I don't know that the deals for the New Line movies were a little different than the deals for the first 8, because the first 8 were all negative pickups. They were paid for separately, and then Paramount just paid to pick it up. Remember, they were produced by Frank Mancuso Jr., and Frank Mancuso Sr. was the head of Paramount, so he had a good deal. For when they did 4 movies under for New Line, right? 9. So Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, and
the remake.
And remember, so the first 3 were done because at the time Paramount owned the trademark to Friday 13th.
Right.
And so that's why it was called Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, because Warner Brothers, New Line, could not use the Friday 13th name. And then there was some deal, I think it had to do with the movie Interstellar, or that's in my head, there was some trade, and New Line got Paramount got like the right to make Interstellar, and in exchange, one of the things that New Line got was the trademark to Friday 13th, and so that way they could make the remake and call it Friday 13th.
Okay, but very interesting there, because it looked like Gunn was getting all these paychecks now. All of a sudden, was what it looked like from the fan perspective. We're like, what's going on here? But yeah, I figured there was some type of workaround for something going on there, and we just very very smart of them to do, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much, like what these guys are doing, and we just every now and then, the fans just want more movies, and
Yeah.
hopefully there'll be more movies and more Jason killing very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And while I have you here, Larry, I had one more thing I wanted to hit on, and it's something that has come up of recent, and I'm not sure how aware you are of it, but it does seem like it's right up your alley as, kind of in the same vein as the Friday the 13th legal issues. There's a big fuss about the Ghostface mask that's going on now between Alterian and Fun World, Paramount, Spyglass, the whole thing. What is your view on that? If you could break that down really quick, because you wait 30 years to try and say something's yours, no matter how much proof you have, what does that look like?
You wait that long, your claim is going to be looked at with a lot of skepticism. I don't think the case just got filed. I don't think there's been any.
Right.
I haven't seen any rulings on motions, but I know the lawyer for well, I guess they filed it it was filed as from
Alterian, right?
Right, saying no, like we want a declaration that we own the rights and these people don't. And I haven't seen anything happen, but I'd be very, very surprised if the people who were claiming that they own the rights after 30 years or whatever, get very far with that.
Very interesting. Yeah. And I looked through it, loose research, obviously. And, it looks like there's a decent amount of evidence there. But like you said, if you wait that long, it's really hard to stake a claim. And it's just interesting to see how that would be handled from a legal end, especially something so iconic like the Scream franchise.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you can't just wait 30 years and then go, I own this. That's not
$1 billion later. Yeah, I think that's mine.
Good luck.
Right. Well, Larry, we appreciate your time so much, man. Never Hike Alone, the final cut. I wanted to mention real quick, that's going to be coming out at some point this year. You were in Never Hike Alone 2 as Mayor Paul Owen.
Right.
How awesome was that to get back on film in front of camera for the Friday the 13th fans? When I remember watching this for the first time with a few friends, and the big pop when you showed up on screen.
I really loved being the mayor of Crystal Lake, because I sort of feel like I am like when I go to conventions, we're all friends, but I sort of I like to round everyone up and get everyone together, and so I love that I'm the mayor of Crystal Lake. Sounds like a great position for Shelley to be.
Officially too, right? Like kind of sort of, yeah.
It's canon.
It is. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Vincente DeSanti always puts out great stuff, and you guys did a phenomenal job with Never Hike Alone 2. And
I didn't do anything. I just stood there and said some lines. Like that's all him.
Yeah, but your presence, it definitely adds to it 100%.
Okay, well, appreciate it.
Yeah. So can't wait for that. And again, thank you so much, Larry, for giving us some of your time. Let everybody know where they can reach you. If you want people to leave you alone, then let them know that too. Where can everybody find your stuff?
Well, if you need a lawyer, I'm Zerner Law. You can just look me up on Zerner Law, and I'm still doing all sorts of lawyer, represent a bunch of people in the horror business, including I'm now representing the Terrifier franchise.
Yes.
Which is super, super fun. And so, that's like using my expertise to help horror movie people is really my thing. So especially if you're making horror movies and need a lawyer, please give me a call. Let's see if I can help you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of big pops, seeing you with the Terrifier guys, we have a couple of very few but friends over at the Terrifier. That was awesome to see. You do great things for the genre in your expertise, and extending that to the horror world is just awesome to see, Larry. We appreciate you on so many levels, man.
Thanks so much. That's very nice.
All right. Thank you again for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, man. All right.
All the best of Slasher Radio Podcast.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.